Hey guys! Welcome back to another episode of Thoughts We Share podcast. I am Tinashe.
And I'm Nicole.
And today we are talking about romanticizing potential.
Yes.
Right? So, how to stop romanticizing potential and see people for who they are.
Such a good topic.
Yeah. So, should we start off with the definition of romanticizing potential?
I would say that romanticizing potential is when you're seeing someone not for who they are, but for who you hope they will become. Because there's like a difference. There's a difference, like a fine line between supporting growth and living in a fantasy where you know that, okay, like what's the track record saying?
Yeah.
You can see that this person has been a bit bad communicator from the start, but yet you think you can have a long-term relationship with good communication skills that you have never seen before.
Definitely. I'm sure like we've both had our fair share of those types of situations.
Loads. I've had loads of those.
Yeah,
Delulu
definitely.
was me for a while. I was in Delulu land. It's only now since my frontal lobe was fully developed.
Shout out to being over 25.
Over 25 in your mid-20s, where I'm trying to open my eyes now and be like, okay, Nicole, wake up. Come on. It's time to actually wake up. I think this whole series of this podcast is really wake up. Like, actually wake up.
Definitely.
We're in a woke era.
Yeah, and I love that for us. But I would say like this has happened recently for me, where it's you are with someone or you start dating someone, and you, from the moment you literally go on the first date, you're like, oh my gosh, my future, what is my future going to be like with them? And you start imagining this amazing situation, and you start viewing this person in front of you in the eyes of this scenario that you've created in your head as like husband or, you know, partner or best friend, whatever it is, when in actuality they are not that thing. Yeah. And the whole point is to avoid looking at people as potentials.
Yeah.
And then looking at them as actual human beings. Like, stop putting people on a pedestal and then actually like looking at them as a human being and accepting them as they are, or seeing their actions directly and then recognizing the red flags, the green flags, what's good, what's not good, you know?
Yeah. So what would you say like is the reason why people like go for potential? What do you think it is?
I think a lot of it is sometimes, okay, in my own experience, it's been about that validation that I get from them. So if I help someone grow, so obviously potential, like you want to help this person grow, you're like, oh, I see that they could be a kinder person. I see that they could be more ambitious with their goals, goal setting, just pushing themselves in a different way if I am there to help them. So it's this validation that if I'm needed, then that shows that I'm important. Yeah. So anytime, so then I'll become attracted to potential. I become attracted to people who I feel need support. So any kind of support, emotional support, goal setting support, physical support. I just feel so sorry for these people, and it's like, I'm the savior of the day. I'm the therapist. Yes, fixing syndrome. I'm the therapist. I'm the best friend. I am their everything, and I want to be their everything because it makes me feel needed and important. And as soon as that happens, I stop seeing this person as an actual person. I see them as my personal project. And then I deal with the project. And instead of dealing with myself as my own personal project, I start dealing with someone else and I start neglecting myself. Yeah. What about you?
Pouring with an empty cup. I think for me, it stems from, I'd say, conditioning. I think growing up and just seeing how things were, especially back home in Zimbabwe, a lot of women were just taught to like endure. Like love was all about waiting for someone to grow into this person they're gonna be. Or if, like, for instance, I remember once like a family member of mine, like their partner cheated, and then they were like, it's fine, that's how men are. Men grow into it. You have to mold them into the man that you want. So it was an idea of like fixing and enduring and just waiting period. Like it was glorified to stand by someone. Like if you love someone, then you need to stand by them, even if like they're not where you want them to be.
Mm.
Just stand by them. You can mold them, you can help them, you can push them, you can, you know, just be the
Yeah.
person that's fixing. So I think the idea was once you're there, it's like, oh my God, but I love this person so much. And then you notice that, okay, this is not really going
Mm.
anywhere. And the potential is just literally just potential that you don't even know is going to manifest. And then you feel almost bad, like, ish, but I'm already here. Like if I
Yeah.
leave them, but I just literally said I love you no matter
Today.
what, through
Yeah.
thick and thin. You're right and die. When they say, are you my body to my Clyde? I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
am. And then now I just feel like I have to help you become this person I want you to be. I can't just leave because I already said I'll stick beside you. So it was just trying to like unravel and just stick
Mm.
with the reality of who that person
Mm.
is, because I can't force anyone to grow.
No.
Like you'd have to want to grow for yourself. So I can't jump into a future with someone or even with friends thinking that like they will be what I want them to be when they've actually shown me they're not that person. Like wake
Wake up.
up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely
Exactly. So
wake
I'm
up.
just trying my best, like not to project my own desires onto somebody, because sometimes it's just really not who they are. They just don't have it in
No,
them.
no, no, no. And a lot of the time, um, that whole potential thing, you give excuses for them as well.
Yeah.
So anytime something happens, you're like, "Oh, okay, but as soon as they get that money, as soon as they get promoted in their job, as soon as they fix their relationship with whoever person, then they're going to be a better partner
Yeah.
to me. If only they just sleep. If they sleep, they'll be fine. They'll be kinder to me, or they'll communicate better, or they'll listen to me more. You know, they're just tired,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just a constant excuses and constant understanding around them,
Yeah.
whereas that's not actually what's happening in reality. In reality, they're just bad
Mm-hmm.
at communicating.
Yeah.
They have a bad relationship with whoever person, and they're not fixing that on their own. They're not putting that effort in at work, or their boss is just not giving them the promotion. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like wishing and saying, "Oh, when I get married, I'll be happier,"
Yeah.
or when I finish my degree, I'll be happier,
When I
or
get
when
there.
yeah, when I
Mm-hmm.
travel, I'll be happier. But you're in here now. You're here now. What's happening now? What's making you happy now? So that's the thing. I know I saw this on TikTok where this girl, what changed for me actually in how I started viewing things is,
Mm-hmm.
um, are you looking at someone's potential, or are you seeing what's there? This girl asked, if you asked yourself if nothing changed about this person and they stayed the same for the rest of their lives, would you still be with them? Would you still want to be with them?
Mm-hmm.
And then my answer was no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you knew
That's how I knew
it's
like
time to go.
it's time for me to exit that situation. And as much, it's very difficult obviously, because you're like, oh, I love that person, but even that love is, you might just love how you are with them, not actually
Mm-hmm.
the person. Because if you love that person as they are 100%, you'd see how they are now. You wouldn't want to fix them or change them or see their
Yeah,
potential
exactly.
to say, oh, in the future they'll be like this, or in 2 weeks they'll be like this. You'd see them and say, oh, this person's better communicating. That's cool. Full
Let me
stop.
move forward. You
Yeah.
like how
You
the
yeah.
the future that you vision with this person, maybe in a year from now, is a person that knows how to communicate, or a
Yeah.
person that treats you well, or a person that's just amazing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like overlooking the red flags,
Mm.
and like that's the thing with a lot of people and a lot of friends and a lot of videos that I've watched online, where you're literally seeing the warning sign is red. Like it's so
Bright
red, bright
red.
red, as clear, like it's clear as day that
Mm.
this is not really giving what you said you wanted in a partner. Because
Mm.
sometimes, like with friends, like when you're having conversations about the kind of friends they want, or the kind of partners they want, or the kind of people they want around them, when they're still lucid, lack of a
Yeah.
better word, they're very clear in what they want. But I don't know, the shift that happens when, I guess, when feelings are involved, logic out the window a little bit, it's like you start to see that this person that you said you wanted versus the person that you actually have is not the person
Yeah.
that's literally right in front of you. But by that time your feelings are involved, you just think that they're going to change, and then you start making excuses for them. I know that one of my friends best friend was in an abusive relationship. The guy was not treating her nice all the time, and then she always used to say like, oh, it's because he's going through a lot, you know, it's going through a lot. If we just pass through this patch, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be fine. Or if someone's just been a bad communicator from the get-go or lacks emotional intelligence, and then you're telling yourself, oh, it's just for now, you know, they went through a lot during childhood. A lot of people like this one, like, oh, they were so traumatized, you know, they didn't have a dad in the house, they didn't have this,
whatever it
whatever.
is,
And I can sympathize with a lot of people that, like, obviously your childhood is a lot of how you become as an old adult. But then I also think that we have to take accountability at some point, because now you're an adult. No one's coming to save you. Like, once I read that and I understood that very well, that like, regardless of what I went through, what they did me wrong, where they missed their mark, where they didn't show up for me in the way I wanted, the love, all that stuff, like, it's sad, but then no one's gonna come and fix that. Like, it's not up to me to fix that. So I don't think it's enough for you to be like, it's because he had a really horrible childhood or she had a horrible childhood, let me stick beside them, when you know you're literally getting the scraps. Like, why? What's the point?
It's excuses, you know. It's big excuses, and we've all been through trauma. But then when you're dating, I think the thing about dating is making friends is, people find it easier to make friends. Like, you could just stumble across someone and make a friend. But with dating, it has a lot to do with, what do I deserve as a person? How do I carry myself in a relationship? And this idea of, you know, long-lasting marriage and building a family. And also, people are quite forgiving because they want to build that thing immediately. Because there's this huge desire for love. People crave love, which is a normal, natural thing. But within that love, they don't want to put in that work of saying, okay, I need to put my red flags down. I need to work on certain things. And when I meet someone, I have to make sure and tick this box. People want to feel loved. So, and then there's that fear of, if I say no to this person, or if I see that red flag, then that means I won't have love. I won't be validated. I won't have anything. I'll be lonely. The loneliness one is a big one. I fear being lonely. And, if I say to this person, oh, you know, you're bad at communicating, I don't want to be with someone who's a bad communicator, then I'll be left alone and I'll be back in the position I am. So they're more accepting of things that they wouldn't naturally be accepting if their friend was that way, you know?
And that's really sad, because most of the times, like, when you decide to settle based on potential, 9 out of 10 times the reason why you break up is exactly why. It was very clear in the beginning. Because a lot of people, like, if they know that this person doesn't treat them nice, and they're hoping that maybe as time goes on they'll be able to establish their boundaries. I think it's good that everyone thinks they can be the person to change that person, or the person to make an impact and stuff like that. I guess Delulu is Delulu. But like, it's like trying to really realize and just see that person for exactly who they are. Like, when I was reading the Let Them Theory by Mel, she really spoke about, like, sometimes, like, how you really want a certain partner that does certain things and doesn't quite necessarily mean that that's what they're gonna do. So like what she said, you have to really ask yourself that, like, if this is as best or as good as it ever gets, am I gonna be happy? And if your answer is no, then that's your sign. That's not for you. You need to be at least in a place where you're like, if nothing ever changes, because we're humans, we're always growing. I obviously want to improve myself and stuff like that. But if my partner wants to think like long term and future wise, I expect him to think, if Nicole was this Nicole and never changed ever again, am I going to be happy? Then if it's no, then maybe I'm not for you. However, like, if you feel like you're happy, that means that when I do change and I do elevate, you're even more happier. Like, it's like a plus and a bonus. But just choosing and hoping, like, oh, hopefully Nicole's gonna be fine in 5 years. Who told you?
That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Back to the point about, like, what the signs that you see at the beginning are definitely what will make you break up at the end. I remember journaling about my ex who cheated on me at the beginning, like when I met him, and I read it back the other day, and it's so crazy because in there I said, I think he's seeing someone else. Yeah, I literally wrote, I think he's seeing someone else, but that's fine. I literally wrote, that's fine.
God forbid.
For me to only get cheated on a few months later with the same person that I thought he was with, you know, and in this situation, I was the side piece. Can you imagine, guys? Yo! But it's crazy because I ignored that because I wanted to just be with this person. I was like, oh, but they're nice, they're cool, and maybe they'll just give me more attention next time we get to know each other a bit more. Maybe they'll give me more time. Maybe they'll be more attentive on the phone. You get what I mean? Those little things I was ignoring because I wanted to be validated. I wanted to feel like, and how I reacted afterwards, the messages I sent him was like, oh, but like, I could have been good for you. I could have changed how you saw the world. I could have done this. I could have done this. And I had made him my project. I had made him the potential. I had made him my source of validation and, to feed that need. When in actuality, I saw all the red signs, the red flags before. I ignored them. And then I suffered at the end.
Yeah.
When I could have, like you said, I could have just said, well, like,
cut the cord earlier.
That's
before
scary.
Your feelings are even
involved and deep. Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
And talking about red flags, because I have a few of my own, lol. But the one that stood out the most is like when I was seeing someone, just from the beginning, wasn't even like my type of person. Like their personality, their values, or things that they found interesting was so not me. But I just remember saying, okay, let me give that a go anyway. And then the more I was even in that relationship, I could just tell that this person, like, obviously, like, how I am, like, I like education. I want to further myself and stuff like that. And I always want to be with someone I can learn something from. Like, that's one of the things. Like, I want someone that can teach me something, not necessarily to do with academics, but just someone that can teach me something, someone that's driven, someone that's like ambitious and trying to like just go get the world someday. Because in my future spouse is a provider, but I don't necessarily mean that in a just financially. I just mean in all aspects. And I just remember being with this person, and I remember my mom asked me, she said, I never saw this person for you. Then I said, to be honest, when I close my eyes and I picture a future, I don't see him there.
Yeah.
But I was actually really struggling to let go, because I think sometimes, like, I was seeing glimpses. You know, when you see like a little glimpse, maybe like he liked to sleep. I like to sleep, don't get me wrong, like my naps and stuff like that. But when it's time to work, like it's time to work.
Yeah.
Like I'm very like driven in that sense. But like he always liked sleeping and always like doing nothing. Like there was nothing productive. Like every time I used to hang out with this person, I felt like I wasted my life. I literally left there feeling like I didn't do anything productive at all. I felt so tired. And I felt like I was holding on to those little glimpses. Maybe one day he was like, oh, I want to change my life. I'm like, yes, this is the man I want that wants to change his life. But did he ever see it through? No. It was only for 2 days and he's back to sleeping and whatever. So I was reading something where it was saying that sometimes you project your own desires, like the desire I want for my partner to have, but obviously the one that's in front of me doesn't have that. And then when you see little glimpses where they're like, maybe he's an abusive partner, and then you see a little glimpse of him being kind tomorrow, a little glimpse of ambition, and then you then amplify that. You hold on to that little glimpse. Like, so he has capacity then. So I'll go with that, because then like he can be this person, and then you just ignore everything, the reality else of their actions, of who they actually are. So I'm learning to like trust like what I see, not what they tell me. I feel like you can speak.
Yeah. People speak a lot, and
may I speak? If you heard me.
Everybody speaks. I mean, at the beginning, when you're dating someone, obviously you're selling yourself, right? So you'll say yes to everything. If I'm dating Nicole and I say, "Oh, Nicole, are you good with your finances?" You're gonna say yes.
Yeah.
You don't know me. I could say whatever I want to say. Exactly. Are you good at communicating? Yes. How was your last relationship? This and this and this. And it's those little things that you see as the relationship progresses, right? But then it's also like recognizing in that moment when you are romanticizing someone or seeing their potential rather than what's actually happening in front of you. So for me, I know I don't like people that are rude to waiters or people that are just walking the street. I just don't like people who are rude in general.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel kindness 100% all the time. So now you're on a date, and then this person that you're on a date with is rude to the waiter. You clock it and you say, actually, that's a red flag for me. But now that it becomes difficult if the person is hot.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, he's so fine though.
Sometimes you're so blinded.
And then you're just so blinded, and then he smiles at you and
you start giggling.
You're melting, and that's the end of the conversation, But in actuality, you're seeing all these red flags and you're being told. So I know my ex told me that he wasn't good at communicating in a way. Yeah. And I just said, oh, okay. And I didn't clock it. I didn't say, oh, that's not what I'm looking for. I just continued, and then our relationship continued. We'll figure it out. But that was a big thing in our relationship, the communication thing. So honestly, literally, make sure you note your red flags from the get-go. Know what you don't want to see from the
Exactly.
start. Or if someone says, I actually am not looking for a relationship, I want to do one, two, three, don't now say, oh yes, yes, okay, cool, I'm fine with that too. When you're telling all your girls, you're telling everybody else that you're actually looking
For
for
a
a
relationship.
relationship, a long-term thing. And because this person is presenting very beautifully doesn't mean that you need to go for them. So you're actually making, when you let go, you're actually making space for better to come in to your life, you know?
Yeah, which is why we definitely need to normalize just, just being fine on your
On your
on your
own.
own and your own space. Because sometimes if you really want the relationship so bad, because I know there's some people like, I'm so tired of being single, like I
Mm,
really don't want to be in a relationship. And I've been through that as well. I had a
mm,
phase where I was like single, single, single,
mm,
and I really wanted to be in a relationship so bad. All my friends were in relationships, and I was just wishing to be in a relationship, wishing to share like my life with someone. Because obviously with friends and family, like it's a different kind of relationship than
yeah,
someone who you're dating and your partner. Because your partner's gonna say good morning every single day without fail. They're gonna, you're someone you speak to after the day, and you moan and moan about everything, or you're happy and you're
yeah,
glad. Like it's a different kind of relationship. So at some point I really, really wanted it. But sometimes when you want it so bad, it's like, especially when you're trying, a lot of people are going on about how Hinge is so often so boring. Hinge is a dating site, by the
mm,
way, that they really don't enjoy being on Hinge. But it's like the longer they're in that space
mm.
of like wanting a relationship and it's not working, the next time you keep saying, oh, okay, let me just give it
Let
a
me
try
try,
now,
yeah, even
because
though it's
you
not
know
for
what I mean.
you.
I'm tired of being single. And that's the thing, you'll see these little red flags and you're like, but if I just say no, that's back to that feeling
Yeah,
again. And having that feeling is so draining. Like when I had that feeling, like I didn't want to feel like that anymore, but I had to force myself. I think after I went on a few dates with someone who literally, like, obviously he was saying, oh, I want to get to know you, I like you, da 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 da, but the actions were not going, they were
yeah,
not going with what he was saying. Like I could tell that this person's wasting my time. I could genuinely see that this person's
yeah,
wasting my time. When I was saying let's hang out, let's do something, we stayed in the same city, but we didn't even see each other. And the
at
next
all,
minute it was
yeah.
like, oh, but I like my quiet time, but I like chilling. When I'm watching football, don't call me, my phone's on D&D. I said,
That's a lot.
this is not the kind of partner I want
No,
for myself. So that's, I'm just trying to
yeah,
look at that. And well, now I don't have to, but at that point, I just, moving forward, I said it's never that serious.
yeah.
It's really, I want to go where I'm wanted. It's never that
That's the other
serious.
thing, yeah. Like if you feel unwanted, then maybe don't be there. But
Mm-hmm.
another thing, like you were saying about the conditioning at the beginning,
Yeah.
that a lot of times women are just taught to sacrifice their own needs, their own personal desires. And sometimes you be in a situation, even at work, even with your friends, where you feel like, you honestly feel like you're not getting what you need. But
Mm-hmm.
then you just say, "Ah, but it's fine, it's fine. I don't really need that thing anyway."
When you know you need it.
When you know you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask, you feel like, oh, you're now draining the other person, then you sacrifice yourself and then you don't get what you need. And this happens in so many situations. And then you end up being with someone or being in a situation where you are unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes like a control type of thing. Then you now start begging that person to be something that
Yeah.
they cannot give you. And then it's just butting heads all the time. And then you're not
Mm-hmm.
happy, they're not happy. And it's just not cool. And at the end of it, you feel even worse than when you started,
Yeah.
right? It also goes with trusting your intuition, that the moment you sense something uncomfortable, that you should trust it and say, okay, this is not it, let me get up and go, instead of saying, ah, maybe it's nothing. Because the more you say maybe it's nothing, the more you show yourself that you don't trust your own intuition, that if another red flag pops up, you you dismiss it immediately.
Yeah.
You dismiss yourself, hence you wanting to make another person your project, if that's the thing, and you start seeing their potential because
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you're not worth building, but you are meant to build another person.
Right.
When that's not the case, you build yourself and then you meet someone that's fully built at your own level, and then you join. Yeah.
That's a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
analogy. And also, it speaks to romanticizing potential with family as well, because I
Yeah.
know that sometimes, like, when people are in environments where, like, maybe it's not necessarily that great, or maybe there's something that's a bit about that family member, and then you're constantly just hoping and praying that, the sibling one day or the parent one day will suddenly become emotionally available or caring and nurturing even though like the track record says nothing, says otherwise. I'm very guilty with that, because obviously when it's family, like you naturally want this family member to come around, maybe like they're negative and they just pour negativity into you. Like you're always hoping, you naturally hope that that family member is going to come around, because that's your family. Like you want to have a relationship with that, a relationship with them. But then for me, like just thinking about the potential and potential and potential, like I got to a point where I got really tired, and I just started seeing them for who they are exactly. But obviously with family it's different. With friends, where you just cut them off like bye, because it's just a friend. I think with family, when I went through therapy, my therapist like said to me that the best way to tackle family members that are not showing up in the way that you want is to realistically place them in your life and how they show up. So for instance, let's say maybe you have a parent that, like, if you had an emergency, they're not coming to your rescue, they're not coming to help you, that's not their character, that's just not who they are.
Yeah.
You start, rather than hating them, because obviously at the end of the day they're your parents, or obey your parents as this is right and says the Lord. It's like you place them in a chart where it's realistic, where because the more you keep wanting them to be your emergency contact when they don't have that capacity, is why you keep getting heartbroken.
Disappointed
Every single time you're getting disappointed, you're building resentment, and it's just really weighing your soul. So when you know that, okay, if I know that I have a friend like Tina, and if I'm stuck or if I'm stranded, I can call Tina. Call Tina. Don't call the parent that's gonna say, "Why are you calling me? You're an adult. Sort your life out." Call your friend that's gonna be there for you, and then you place them in another way where like, okay, maybe we have a good relationship as friends. Then be friends with them. Enjoy that relationship for what it is exactly. So me, with family, with friends, I'm realistically placing everybody. If I know that, okay, you're not there when I need you. If I want to cry, you're not the person I'm calling. If I need anything, you're not the person I'm calling. I can still love you in the capacity of who you are to me and what you bring to me. If you bring to me laughter, then I know that if I want to laugh, I can go and laugh with you, and I can still love you for the fact that you bring laughter. So that's how I'm tackling my relationships with like family and friends, people that I can't necessarily cut off as well.
I think that's a good one, just having a hierarchy of things. I think to add on to that is also parenting yourself, if it's a parent, or being a good sibling to yourself too. So I think that's what it all encapsulates, because it's like a need that you are missing out on.
Yeah.
Then you then project that need onto others and try and fit it onto that person, right? But if you parent yourself, and if your parent is not really present, how present are you for you? Just asking yourself, what is this desire that I need from other people that I keep searching for, whether it's in family, in friends, in partners? How come I keep attracting the same person?
Yeah.
Like we always say, if there's something, if you need to learn a lesson, it will keep showing up the same way, just in different people.
In all different relationships, not just romantic.
Then you start to realize a trend, because at the end of the day, the common denominator is you, right? So if you see a trend in something that's happening, like in your parent relationship, in your sibling relationship, in your dating life, in your friend's life, there's always this thing that people are not as serious with you as they need to be, then maybe it's something that's internal, and figuring out what that need is. For me, I know that need is just validation. I don't validate myself, so I need other people to come and say, "Oh, Tina, you're this, you're this, you're this," and I start looking for that in others, and then I become everybody's therapist and support system and all. When actuality, I don't do that for myself. So it's those types of things. How can you parent yourself better? How can you be a sibling to yourself? How can you be a better friend to yourself? How can you be a better partner to you? What things do you desire in those relationships? Give them to yourself first, and see how that transforms the people around you, the people you choose, how you interact with those people, and maybe things will get better. But I really like that hierarchy chart of things, because just because someone has that title of parent or sibling or friend, or it doesn't mean they have to actually slot into that area. That's why some friends can become your family, and vice versa.
Exactly. And it really plays into, in some capacity, self-worth as well, like what definitely you feel like you're deserving of. Do you feel like you're deserving of a partner who already meets your needs? Because sometimes some people are like, oh, but the world is hard these days, there's barely any loyal men, barely any loyal women.
Those narratives,
at least they're doing this, at least I'm getting this, at least but then that like the things that are your non-negotiables, things that you really really truly truly want, you're not getting. When I was reading another chapter in the
Let them theory,
Let Them
yeah.
Theory by Mel Robbins. She said that like in order for anything to work, you need two people that want it to work. And then the other main thing that she really said that I really really liked, she said that if it means staying with that person, means sacrificing your core values, like who you are and what you expect and what you want out of life, then that's not someone that you want to be with, because you still want to feel fulfilled in the things that you said you wanted for yourself. You shouldn't have to now say, well, since they're good at listening, but then maybe they treat you badly. You're like, oh, but he's a good listener. I've never had a good listener in my life before. And not allowing yourself to be mistreated or take less of what you deserve because they have another thing that they're good at. You need to look at what you're willing, what's like definitely this is a yes and definitely this is a no.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can love someone and not be compatible with them
Yeah.
in terms of what you see for yourself, your vision and stuff. And it also, looking at one of my family members, like they were in a long-term relationship and now the husband wanted to retire at a farm. You want to retire in the city, maybe you want to stay in the UK, and then your partner wants to go back to Zimbabwe. So it's one of those things like thinking long term. When that time comes,
What do you do?
do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when that time comes, and I know some people they'll hope that okay, or people that don't even want to have kids, you know deep down you want to have a kid, and you're just thinking maybe they'll change their mind, you know, as you get older. But you can see from the beginning that this person and your values and your wants are all completely different. Another person wants to go and live in Zimbabwe. You want to stay in the UK. Do you know what I mean? Like, and no one's wrong in that situation for wanting what they want, but sometimes people just hold on and think maybe once the love is now deep,
then we'll
you know what I
make
mean?
a
Like if I'm so
plan.
in love, there's no
Yeah.
way he's gonna leave me here
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And a person that's really truly met themselves will leave you.
They
Like
will.
as you should,
Yeah.
because like they
They're
owe it to
secure in
themselves.
themselves.
They
Yeah.
have to they owe it to themselves to live the life that they want, not to sacrifice for me. Like I don't want someone to sacrifice how they envision their life for me. It has to be
Yeah.
something you're willing to sacrifice. That even if I didn't go back to Zimbabwe, I'm happy staying here and being with this person. So that's romanticizing your life in the long run is always, 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 always so sad.
That's true. Yeah, yeah,
Never
yeah.
fulfilled.
I think the key point about your core values, because you only realize your core values when you have that time to reflect on yourself and really sit and say, okay, what do I want? Because it's one thing to date. Like you can date anyone. These 100 people out there. You can just go on the street and say, let's go on a date to someone, right?
Yeah.
But then how you then boil it down to the person that you want to then build a long-term thing with or do a long-term thing with in whatever, it's determining what your core values are and what you like, what you dislike, and then that makes it easier to recognize red flags, because red flags are quite personal. Some can be shared, right? Some can be, me and Nicole might have similar red flags, but it's all based on personal experiences, that you don't want to be in a situation where someone doesn't communicate with you. Your green flag would be, I want someone that listens and is quite open and is quite communicative and bonds in a certain way, or someone that's quite romantic and watches certain things, you know.
Yeah.
And then if someone comes to you and they don't do those things, then you can appreciate that situation and say, okay, this doesn't align with me. Well, this aligns with me, let me move forward. This doesn't align with me, let me get out. Because you know yourself, you're structured, you're secure.
Yeah.
Right? But then when you're insecure, when you're a bit anxious, when you're a bit avoidant, you then hold on to potential in everybody, and that's the last thing that you need.
Oh, God forbid. God
I
forbid.
know.
Yeah. So one of the tips I would actually advise is that you should just accept the present, not the potential. So for instance, like if what Tina said, if they never changed, if this present that they're in, if this present moment is what is the best that they can give, if you can't accept it, then you should start really think to yourself like, okay, what are my next steps? And if you're willing to accept it when you know that this is not what you want, you should really ask yourself, why am I willing to accept something that's less than what I deserve?
The big point, less than what I deserve, because you are deserving and you need to remind yourself those things. A tip from me would be to ask yourself if you're focusing on their potential or their actual current behavior. So the actions are right in front of you. If they've promised you something and they're not delivering on that, then they're not doing what they do. And I think a good way to measure this is if you are on a job or if you're at work, at school, and you have not ticked the goals or the things that the lecturer has given you or the things that your boss has given you, then you're going to be questioned. You're going to be put on a disciplinary thing. You're going to have meetings about why you're not meeting the action that you promised, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same in a relationship. It's the same with friendships. It's the same with anybody really. That
Mm-hmm.
measure that thing. If someone says, "Oh, I promise these are the things that I will do," and they're not doing it, question
Mm-hmm.
it. Say,
Mm-hmm.
you're not meeting your goals and your targets. What's going on? Investigate.
Yeah.
And once you investigate and you realize, like, okay, this is actually what I don't deserve, let me exit and see how easier things will get. Yes, breakups are hard. Yes, doing, leaving someone is difficult. But at the end of the day, when you realize how important it is for yourself, you feel good about it. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a
Mm-hmm.
good action because you're treating yourself the way you deserve instead of allowing someone to do what they want with your time and with your energy.
Mm-hmm. And to add on to that as well, I would say that especially if you're already in a relationship, you rely on relationships and stuff like that. I heard that sometimes when you raise a concern, let's say maybe you didn't quite raise it, maybe sometimes you're realizing things as you go like, oh, I actually hate this thing. When you do raise a concern that, like, let's say you say to this person, well, I don't know what you say you don't like. Maybe say, I don't like how you leave the dishes in the sink and it's really like annoying me, and the partner I want is very, very clean. They said that, like, if you want change within like someone that you've been with, especially for a while or a long time, you can't expect it to happen in one day. So I don't know how long you have to pick how long you're willing to wait for a change to happen, because it's not like a week or 2 week thing. Well, the person that I listened to in long-term relationships over 10 years, they said you should give it about 6 months. I don't know, obviously that's what they said because they're married. I've never been married before. But then if it's like a long-term relationship that you've been dating a couple of years, and you should maybe a couple of years, you should give it 3 months. Give that person, and when you speak about what your desires are and what you want and what you want to change, you go to them and say, well, this is what I expect from you and this is the reason why I expect it from you, da 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 da. Do you understand? You have to ask them, do you really understand what I've said? And then ask them to repeat what they've said. And then if it seems like you understand, everyone's understanding, then you watch them. So sometimes if like their habit is not to buy you flowers, and you romanticize your partner buying you flowers, that's the partner that you want, a romantic partner. If he hasn't been romantic till that time, till from that time till now, it's not gonna just switch and be romantic tomorrow. So it's just giving that person time to get there, because sometimes, like, even when you're in your process of changing, by habit
Your
you
retreat.
retreat back. So it's like sometimes you do well, then it's one step back, and then do well. But as long as you can see that it's moving forward in the right direction. Because I remember that I used to say to my partner that I really, really wanted a flowers, or actually a card even. I just wanted a card, and he didn't see what's the idea of getting someone a card with no gift, but I actually just wanted a card. And I know that it's something that took almost about 4 months for him to finally put it in his head and get it. And that's what I'm saying, that sometimes, like, sometimes you give me a card and then he wouldn't give me a card, then he would like, but I don't have a gift. I'm like, remember we said the gift is not necessary, just get the card. So it's like that 4 months. Well, I don't know how long you're willing to wait. You decide for yourself what works for you, and then obviously that.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. I agree definitely to that. And then another tip from me is, if you feel like you are pushing that change, or you're this supportive partner or supportive person, maybe detached from being the fixer all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't have to show people their potential or show people where they could possibly be if they followed the steps that you're giving or the advice that you're giving.
Yeah.
You are not their therapist, you're not their parent, you're not anybody but their partner or their friend, right? The only thing you can do is advice.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't take your advice, don't take it personal, right? Think about how you can apply those things to yourself. If you see yourself always like giving advice and all, maybe say, is it me? Maybe I need to follow this own advice myself. Maybe I should concentrate on me, do
Mm-hmm.
my own thing. Even being in a relationship, you can do things for you
Yourself,
and see
yes.
how that transforms your relationship with them. You don't have to fix everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to show people. You don't have to get them back. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on self.
Self, yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful actually.
People only grow when they want to grow.
Mm-hmm. You
Yeah.
can't force
You
anyone
can't
to
force
grow.
anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say that, like, one of the other tips that I mentioned earlier is that you have to pay attention to their actions and not their words. Like, does their behavior match the promise that they said? If
Mm.
they say, oh, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna change, and this person's not changing, it's time to just realize that this person's not
Yeah.
changing and stuff like that. I know a lot of people have struggled with that. I've struggled with that myself, where like I then, because the last thing you want is to give so much of your time and your life to somebody and then it just be wasted, because that's how I felt when I knew that this person, we've been speaking about this since a year ago or a year and a half in, and then I'm just thinking to myself, wow, like I spent a 1 year and a half waiting for this. You know, sometimes people are very convincing when they're like, oh, you know, I'm really sorry, I'm gonna change today, and you just really hold on to that potential of that person that you see, like, I know he's gonna change, I know he's gonna change, and then he doesn't change, and it's like a year and a half later. So you just have to challenge yourself to like pay attention to what someone's saying, and not like
what their potential
what their
is,
potential is, like the actions.
their
Are they
actions,
doing the thing that they said they're gonna do?
yeah. The final point for me is recognizing the pattern. Like we said, the lesson will always come in different people, right? If you're supposed to learn something in partnerships or relationships, that trend would literally follow you until you learn the lesson.
Yeah.
And maybe this could be, you could investigate and realize that you have a fear of being alone, or you struggle to give yourself the energy, the time that you need, the things that you desire. And then that shows up in the form that comes to you, right? So recognize that pattern and then work on it.
Yeah.
You can do this while in a relationship. It's not like you can't work on yourself. It has to be separate from your relationship. You can actually actively participate in yourself while you're with someone else. So don't think you have to now be alone and isolate just because, you know? Yeah. Because there's deeper needs that you need from yourself. There's deeper desires that you require from yourself. And those are really important to listen to avoid feeling like you're looking at someone's potential, you're romanticizing something that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
Thank you guys for tuning in again. If you have any questions that you want to post to us, because we did say like we want to be more interactive as well. So if you have any questions that you'd like us to tackle, just leave that in the comments and we will try our best to get into it. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching today. Please like and share. And until the next episode, this is Thoughts We Share. My name is Nicole.
And I'm Tinashe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.